So yeah, that is a thing um, for people who grew up a certain way in some type of abuse or trauma or negative childhood environment where the parents didn't believe in them, ridiculed them, shamed them, whatever was going on. That can be a thing as, they grow older, having this drive inside to want to do something big, something worthwhile, be of use, but it's this extra drive. And for the people who, it's a struggle for all who grow up like that, believe me. I know firsthand. But for the people who don't necessarily or aren't able to get treatment or therapy or take that drive inside, there's often a split. Okay. And this is where we would get into talking about how toxic narcissism, pathological narcissism can develop personality disorders, addictions. There's often a split in childhood, okay? Because it can be a struggle to survive a childhood like that. And there's often a split if that child or teen or young person isn't mentored or counseled with or guided properly with all of that dysfunction that was put on them, and give them away the tools. Start putting the tools in their toolbox early on to cope with that shit, to learn to channel it into something productive, useful, not self-destructive, what have you. Then there will be a split with that child, that teen, that young person. They'll either go one way or the other, carrying all that shit with all of that twisted shit in their head, and they will develop all of these issues, and personality disorder will get worse if they have one, anxiety disorders, and whatever they were exposed to as a kid, manipulation, abandonment issues, addictions in the home, whether it was physical, mental, emotional, sexual abuse, a lot of those things carry on and can manifest themselves in their adult life and in their adult relationships. And it just goes on, or the split off will be someone was able to counsel with and intervene and mentor that child, and they get all different types of perspectives and support, which is kind of what happened to me in the different behavioral institutions. And I was in the foster care system, and I was court ordered to a therapist at 14, which I kept all of my life. I used to attend different groups. And yes, for a while, I got into self-help. As cliche as that seems to some people, I wanted to learn and grow. I was just this wide open sponge. I wanted to read. I was interested in different philosophies and spiritual perspectives and psychology. And so the split for a person like that, you will still struggle because a lot of that damage, man, is permanent. It's wired deeply in there, and you will still go through your life having to catch yourself, in your toxic moments or wanting to react a certain way, but you now have the tools to make a different choice. Okay. So that's kind of what happens. All right. And that's kind of, what I went through. But I won't say it's still been a struggle for the biggest part of my life to deal with a lot of those things that were ingrained in me as a young child, and growing up. And, so let's move on with this get to know me and what a mental breakdown looks like. Oh, I wanted to give an example. There's zillions of them really, but two people off the top of my head because I watched their documentaries recently on Netflix. Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Two examples of people who endured abusive childhoods, where Arnold, for sure, his father was cruel and abusive, hardcore. And Arnold is the classic example. He talks about it in his documentary, how he just really didn't feel like at all like he even belonged there in that country, that it wasn't his home. He dreamed of coming to America, and he fantasized about what he would become and how he wanted to become big and powerful. And he is a classic example of someone who used the trauma that was put upon him, that drive that it gives a person. He used it for something productive. And, I believe a lot of people in the entertainment industry that do make it to the top, a lot of them, that burning fire and courage and guts and just almost, they've got to channel that energy somewhere, or it would become insanity. It would become depression, anxiety, addiction, and for many of them it still does. Okay, but I like examining this stuff. I know quite a bit about it from how I grew up. And, I've already explained how I am not a professional or an expert. Please do your own research. Please contact a professional if you need help. Videos are for educational purposes here. But I do have a lot of hands-on experience growing up like this, and I have a lot of insight into it, okay? But those are classic examples of people, and Sylvester Stallone similarly. And so a lot of times when you see this enormous drive in certain people that, to perform or to create content or to speak out to the world or to, any number of things they might channel it into, even privately, that might be artistic or positive in some way, useful, productive, wanting to be of service to others. Oftentimes that can come from childhood trauma, and that is an energy form that instead of letting it destroy them or turning it on themselves and annihilating themselves or turning it on others in a negative way, they have chosen to pour all of that into whatever craft it is and use it for a useful thing. Doesn't mean they don't still struggle. Doesn't mean they don't still encounter issues sometimes, okay? But I've always loved that. It is life-saving, and that is always what I've tried to turn my energy towards. And so here's the thing, in the past, people would often comment about some of my videos seeming a bit aggressive or seeming a bit angry at times, or this, that, and the other. Yes, for a person who grew up like me and who often even endured those same traumatic events, even in my adult life sometimes, and had all of that going on in me, even though I was getting help and treatment and whatnot, and had a lot of tools for coping, I still have to move that energy somehow. Okay. And so what I hope to achieve with this part of the video is that for people out there to understand trauma a bit more deeply and understand what they're seeing on different individuals sometimes before they just make a quick assumption about what it is that person's going through or where that energy is coming from. A lot of times they are taking things from their past, and instead of doing some other dumb bullshit with it that could be far worse, they're channeling it into something over the top. And the way I see it, that's much better. I would rather somebody cut on a camera and do some fun, crazy skit or do their rant or fucking write a song or poetry or paint something or, use that shit, use that pain, use that anger to create something productive out into the world and prevent self-destruction or destruction of others. I would rather see somebody do that 1,000,000 times more. I mean, come on, than anything else. And that's why I kind of don't understand when a lot of people sit up and, just bash everybody. Oh, look at those attention seekers. They just want attention. They're just doing this, that, and the other. Yeah, but like I've explained before, we're all on different dimensions of consciousness. And really, when I see other people doing things in life, it's just not the first thing I think. It is not the first thing that comes to my mind. Look at them. They just want, never do I think that. Maybe when I was younger, yes, and a little bit less emotionally mature, a little bit less healed. Never these days. I saw something the other night on Facebook where these people had done a skit. The guy was hiding in the back trunk with flowers and a marry me sign, and the girl was acting all ditzy and coming out of the grocery store, and the video took forever. And to me, it was kind of slapstick. I can't think of the genre of comedy, but it just went on and on forever. And the girl was, you could tell, purposely prolonging finding him there and going, oh, wow. The whole damn thing, it was kind of silly, was kind of stupid, but that was the point of it. And, I rather enjoyed it. It did go on and on to the point where you get frustrated, like, girl, come on, find the dude. But, this was somebody's video, their project, and it reminded me of comedy we used to watch back in the day, like I Love Lucy, that kind of silly shit. or the Stooges, or I could name 100 others. I just can't think of them right now. It reminded me of that particular kind of comedy, or like Larry David shit. There's so many different types of comedy out there. And it just kind of reminded me of that off the top of my head. And I remember thinking, oh, she's got great lavender shoes, pumps. And I thought, wow, these stylish, cute shoes on a grocery shopping trip. Hell yeah. And I remember thinking, I need to get my cute shoes out and dress up and stop, letting time slip away. And no pressure. I'm not telling anybody you have to. There's nothing wrong with going to the grocery store looking comfortable like most everybody does. I'm just saying, these were my first thoughts when I was watching the video. Cute shoes. I'm inspired. I need to get my cute shoes out. And that's how I personally feel. I like dressing. I like dressing up. When I don't feel good, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to go looking however shabbily I want to. But I'm a chick who likes to dress up. It makes me feel fun and great and high energy and expressive. And that was what I thought. Hey, I need to get my cute shoes out. And I need to be fucking feeling good and looking cute wherever I go again. And this kind of comedy is kind of weird, but it's kind of that offbeat. Okay, cool. When I went down to the comment section to leave a little smiley face, because I try to leave something on people's videos that I watch, because I know how the algorithm is, and I at least try to let them know I was there and I enjoyed it in some way. When I got down to the comment section, I was shocked. I'm seeing this more and more now, okay? And then I promise we're going to get on into the quickest version of get to know me, little parts of my life. Who am I? Where do I come from? What have I been through? Quick. And then get into the mental breakdown thing, okay? What that looks like for some of us and what it looked like for me. But anyway, I see this all over the place now, y'all. And maybe I've just changed. Maybe it's because I'm older now. Maybe it's because I'm 47. Maybe it's because of all I've been through that has fucking knocked me down to dirt level and humbled me. And I have gone through a lot of suffering, and I've had to, I've really had to sort myself out spiritually, psychologically. And I don't know. Maybe it's just the dimension of consciousness I'm on, that all I really want to do anymore is just enjoy everything. And for years, I've had this personality that's very creative, and I admire the creativity of others. And I'm always looking around to either admire or take inspiration from other people and go, wow, that's cool. If they can do that, I could do, something of my own. So happy for them. I try to keep myself in that mindset, because I remember how I was as a very unhappy, abused young girl, growing up in pain and dysfunction and abuse and trauma, and a teen, and all that wiring still being in me. And even up until my 20s and late 20s, close to 30, still having to get negative wiring out of me. Those types of things where your first thought is not, why are they so happy? I wish I had what they had. Yeah, look at them. Nobody cares about this. Nobody cares about me. Why do I have to blah, 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 blah. Way back before I ever learned about personal responsibility, integrity, self-awareness, all of those damn things that come with emotional maturity and emotional intelligence. And a lot of us didn't get that from our parents, didn't get that in our environments. You have to seek a therapist, or you had to have had a therapist or a counselor or an aunt or a grandparent or some type of positive guidance and teaching. And a lot of us got to adulthood and we still didn't have enough. We still needed help. We needed to work on my life. It's been a lifelong process. I have never stopped thinking that I need to work on myself. It is an ongoing self-improvement process and growth process of the brain. And it will always be. I feel like I'm an eternal student. We will never know it all, but I always feel like there's more healing and more growth for me to continue doing. Okay. And I enjoy that. I'm not perfect. I know my character defects, and I can name a lot of them. But anyway, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just where I'm at. It's not because I'm too gullible and too sensitive, and honey, because I've been the rawest end of it all before in my life. And I'm glad to have gotten to a point where I am more empathetic to others and more gentle and soft and more healed in my feminine energy. If you want to talk spiritual, talk the divine feminine, divine masculine. When a woman is very, very wounded and very, very afraid and anxious and angry because she's so hurt, oftentimes she does get stuck more in her masculine energy. And, I'm not debating sexuality or anything like that. I'm just saying for me personally, I loved it when I started getting more healed and I could settle into my softness, my gentleness, my loving side, my just, and so many people on this earth I know are suffering. They are unhealed. They are angry and they have certain little ways of taking it out. But I'm going to tell y'all something. This internet troll shit, this internet bullying shit, it is for real and it is there. And just about every content creator, it's all I see is these people sitting at home, miserable, apparently not doing anything of their own, bitter, angry. And the only thing they do is attack these people's content. Some of the first comments on that little video were, who dresses like that to go to the grocery store? Nobody. This isn't real. For those of you who thought this was real, blah, blah, blah. And this is stupid. This is just all an act. And it just negative, attack, right on down the line. I'm like, do people really waste their valuable time to sit up and watch something that they totally despise, that they found no value in, no inspiration, they hate, and then stick around to just sit in the comments and say nasty, stupid shit to make people feel ugly and stupid and bad about their content? I mean, really? Okay, maybe I'm a weirdo, but that shit doesn't make sense to me, and there's just so much hate in the comments. And I feel like these people need to get to the root of where it's coming from. Because when you're on a more healed level, when you're really focusing on you and your gifts and your talents and what you came to this earth to do and create and share with the world or your family or whatever it is you're doing in your life, you don't really have time, nor does it even occur to you to sit up and put hate on every content video you see. To just sit there and find things to pick out to say nasty shit about. I mean, to me, it's the dumbest shit I've ever seen. But anyway, it is what it is. We got to live and let live, y'all, because it's those same nasty ass people that are going to say, oh, you're just too sensitive. And we are entitled to our opinions and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but it makes them look real stupid. Makes them look really ignorant and like they don't have any talent, any gifts, any skills, any other thing to do but sit up and throw hatred and throw negativity. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, is that really all I would want to do with my life? Is that all I would want to ever be known for? No. So, all right, moving on, guys. I'm a 47-year-old mother of two. Get to know me real quick. I'm going to keep this short because I know this video has gotten long. I'm actually going to have to edit and put the two parts together. I have two grown sons. I live in the South. I think I've started some of this in that other part yesterday, and then I had to stop. I grew up with two parents with personality disorders. My father was bipolar, alcoholic, binge drinker, drank a lot towards the weekends, would do crazy things. He was very violent, very abusive, but also very loving and nurturing to us at the same time. Turned into a big old kid when he got drunk, wanted to play the pop music and buy the candy, and he drove crazy and put us all in fucking danger. But as kids, we're like, woohoo, yeah, we want to go with him. What kid doesn't, shotguns, and he would take us out to shoot shotgun and rifle, and just a lot of crazy shit that went down. I have stories that, would just be jaw-dropping. Anyway, mother had a personality disorder too, but it was a different kind, a more detached, dissociative type. She didn't do any substances or anything like that, but she was kind of withdrawn and, didn't pay attention to a lot of stuff. She had that battered women syndrome stuff where she was traumatized and continued having children, growing the family with my father, but scared to leave him, but being mistreated by him. So there we all were, right in the middle of all that. Very abusive, very violent, very manipulative, mixed messages. One day you got to go to school, the next day you're staying home. Sometimes getting ripped up out of the bed at all hours of the night, getting beat down, not knowing what the hell was going on. And even more violation, which I have gotten into in some of the other videos on my page. So, grew up in trauma, abuse, all that kind of shit. Into my teens, I began running away at age 12, hit the streets. Like I say, this is going to be the fast track. There are lots of stories, lots of details that are going to be included in the future on my YouTube channel. I am sorry it has not been able to be as consistent as I wanted it to be, but I am feeling like from here on out, I will be able to provide the consistent content. I have a week or two each month where, I have more business going on or I don't feel as well. I do deal with anxiety and depression sometimes. So if I do back off sometimes and get a little slower on my channel, it would be during that time. But other than that, I am going to keep working towards consistency. And, these are some of the things I'm going to be talking about. Some of the more detailed versions of what I experienced as a child, a teenager in the streets, growing up, all kinds of stuff, okay? And topics like generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD with panic attacks, that whole nutshell. I've had it since I was a very young person. I have had to cope with it, and I have not been medicated for it, okay? I'm very knowledgeable about those things and how to cope with them. I've been doing it all my life, okay? I have been overseen by a professional, like psychotherapist, that I've known since I was 14 years old. That's 30 years, okay? Close to it. Also, talking about the anxiety disorders I know a lot about, I have lived through, and OCD, which is an offshoot of anxiety. It's a part of an anxiety disorder. I do not have full-blown obsessive-compulsive disorder. I have obsessive-compulsive traits. That's what it says on my psychological evaluation and treatment plan. The GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, PTSD with panic attacks, and obsessive-compulsive traits, meaning if my anxiety gets too triggered, then my OCD can flare up to a mild to moderate degree that is very uncomfortable for me. And it manifests itself in different ways where I will have to, the obsession, which would be the worry, whatever the trigger is, would come up. And you have to fucking try to identify what is that sometimes. Sometimes we don't know what is the worry. What is it? And then we act on this compulsion to relieve that. Okay, let me scrub the floor. Okay, let me clean this room. Okay, if I make sure everything is in order, that will make this go away. That will make this feeling go away. I will feel 10 times better. I'm going to get into OCD and what I know about it, okay? These are slangs that everybody hears nowadays, blah, 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 blah. But it's a very real thing that many of us live through and have had proper psychological evaluation and testing, and we know what our level is and what not. Some people are far worse than that with full-blown obsessive-compulsive disorder, okay? You've seen shows about it, how out of control and terrifying it can become. OCD is an anxiety disorder, okay? That is what it is. It's anxiety. And to that person, it is very real. It is terror. And so I'll be discussing things like that in the coming future in videos. SVT attacks, physical feelings of anxiety and SVT attacks, which are a very weird happening to the heart, which doesn't indicate a heart problem. I've been to the cardiologist. I've had a full checkup. I have a healthy heart. But it is an abnormal heart rhythm that when it gets triggered off, stress can trigger it, smoking can trigger it. Women over 40, it's common. I will get into those videos. What else is coming that I'm very passionate? I've been planning a long time on specifically these topics. Those for sure. Addiction, growing up in an addicted family, mental illness in the family, personality disorders, addiction, knowing it from all angles. Okay, as a child of addicts, as friends of addicts, best friends, siblings, the caretaker of addicts, and, from the perspective of being hurt by them and all the mixed emotions that you have with them and the love you have from them, but how you have to put fucking boundaries up with them. And then in later life, what no one expected, I had never been addicted to substances in my whole life, out of my whole entire family, upbringing, everybody I knew. And then later on in life, around age 38, my experience with addiction to opiates for 3 years, and then getting in a Suboxone program. So I will be talking a lot about addiction from all perspectives: alcoholism, what it's like to live with an alcoholic as their child or as their wife, their partner. I will be talking about my own addiction journey, what the hell happened to me, nobody ever expected, I didn't expect. I will be talking about Suboxone and what that is like, and what that whole program, and I've been in it for several years, what that has done for my life. So I've got I've really got plenty of content to get out, guys. I've just needed the chance to do it. And my life in the past few years was so chaotic, dealing with an alcoholic partner who also had cancer, who also had personality disorders and trauma and covert narcissistic tendencies and chaos all the time. And it has just been so difficult for me. But I have not wanted to give up on my projects, my YouTube channel, my sharing. Okay. And so that's just to name a few of the things that are really important to me, that I'm going to be coming with stories in the future. And of course, not just that, there are certain celebrities that I like to cover their life stories and talk about certain things about their life that I'm going to continue to do in certain cases. And at the same time, that's just the psychological stuff. It's not always going to be just negative stuff. I have got some beautiful stories from my past that were just downright miracles to me. Just downright, almost like an angel stepped in, okay? Like how I wasn't able to even finish junior high school growing up because I was such a tormented kid running the streets, dysfunctional home. How I didn't get to go to high school, but how 16 years later, because of a woman who walked up to me in a dog park and encouraged me and gave me a piece of advice, I followed her advice. And instead of messing around at the adult education center where I just wasn't getting the math, and I was on a very low level of math, even in my early 30s, I followed her advice. And based on what her advice was, I was able to go over to the college, take some testing, and get in on a special program they had at that time. And from there, obtain my Associate of Arts degree. And it's an amazing story. I enjoyed it so much. And that's gonna be one of my videos, telling you guys about that, about the miracles that have happened in my life, the things I actually have accomplished that I am proud of, that I wanted to accomplish. Stories of the year I had to live in my car, and how there were angelic presences that sometimes would come up to me and help me out and bless me. Miracles. I have so much to share. And then that's just that. Then the spiritual stuff that content I want to get up, like the dreams of dead celebrities that I've had for years and years and years, psychic dreams, out of body experiences, what that feels like, sleep paralysis. So many people have sleep paralysis, and I read it all the time. People are fearful. They are questioning. They don't know what it is. Is it a demon? Am I dying? There's all these different feelings and thoughts and theories. And I want to share my personal experience with terrifying sleep paralysis for many years, and how it changed one day, and what I found out is on the other side of sleep paralysis. Very interesting stuff. So, out of body experiences, and all of the spiritual things that I have either experienced, witnessed, or learned over the years, or just the things I'm fascinated with, okay? So I've got lots. I've got ideas and topics for content for years and years. I just have needed to get consistent with it and, be able to build my home life back after all that happened to me in the last year, losing my partner and having what happened to my mind. That's where we're coming full circle to talk about the mental breakdown and what that looked like for me. And, it might have happened to you before, or somebody it might be happening to, and it might help you to understand them. It doesn't look the same for everybody. And so as far as my life story goes, yes, started running away from home as a young teen, foster care system, behavioral institutions, court ordered to a therapist. I had people trying to look out for me and intervene and teach, but I was also a rebellious ass teenager, running and ripping the streets. Got married at 17 the first time, basically just to get out of trouble, just to get, free. That didn't last. I ran off, and then I got with my children's father, and he and I were together for 7 years. He was a wonderful man to me. The first husband was alcoholic. There we go. Those patterns following you. And when I was in my late teens and early 20s, I still had a lot of damage from childhood, a lot of violence, a lot of manipulation, a lot of hatred in there, a lot of anger, a lot of, then I knew I needed to stay in therapy. Then when I got with my children's father and started having my kids, I was 20, had them both by the time I was 21, had my tubes tied. I knew I needed to stay in therapy. That was one of the most important things to me when I had my children, is not necessarily can I give them wealth and riches and all of this by a certain age. I'll damn sure try. I would love that. But if anything, I want to make sure that they make it to adulthood with emotional intelligence intact, good emotional intelligence, having been feeling safe in their home life and secure and stable and loved and heard and valid and accepted, but at the same time had the proper amount of discipline. Okay. And that is what I was striving for while raising my boys, and I did it single. So it was kind of tough. But anyway, so that was that. I had them. The father and I separated when they were 3 and 4. Single young woman in my early 20s. I worked in the restaurant industry, waiting tables, doing different things. I was very highly into spiritual reading, studying, going to therapy, that kind of thing. I never got off into substances and drugs, although just about everybody I knew around me did. It was what it was. I did love to drink for about 10 years, from 26 to 36, something like that. I partied when the kids were at their dad's on the weekends, or when, I got a moment after they went to bed and I had a babysitter or grandmother was there. I would go out on weekends. I would drink it up. I drank a lot for about 10 years, but never an alcoholic, never. Fuck that. By the time the weekend was over and Monday came, I had it with that life. I was done with the party. I've always had kind of an old, mature soul. It's time for me to go home. Shit. I got kids. I have to be there in the morning, and everything has to be just. And so that went on for many years, raising my children, working, going to school. I went back to college around age 33, 34. That's when that story happened that I'll tell you. And I got my associate's degree, and I had intended on continuing to get my bachelor's, but I had some different types of emotional problems and interferences and distractions in my life. That whole time I was kind of trying to go one path for myself. There were always some issues that I needed to work through. I did not remarry, and I did not get into any live-in very close relationships in the years raising my children. I did date a lot, and some of those situations were quite toxic, quite either that person was alcoholic or addicted, or just not right for the path I was on, and they would be living a totally different path. And so I went through all that, and then around the age of 40, and I'm skipping over a lot. I'm skipping over a lot of stuff, just trying to move it on through. Around the age of 40, I got with my very last partner. After years and years and years, the children are grown now. They're reaching adulthood. I've got my little townhouse apartment, my belongings. I had stayed very stable and rooted for 20 some odd years, and I really had not let anyone in all the way. I had almost become quite commitment phobic, because prior to that, I had to unwire years and years of being too clingy and too codependent and too much thinking I had to have a partner. So once I began to heal, I really enjoyed my space and I got very used to, this is my space, my home. This is my life. We can date, but you're going home. Nobody moves in here with me. Nobody, I don't get too involved. I almost became, and so around the age of 40, a friend of mine lost a child. I had known him for many, many years from a distance. We had run around the same scene together. We had played music and in bands and, done all this stuff and hung out from time to time. I didn't know him really, really well, but I knew him. We had had a little thing in the past. Long story short, he lost a child and he needed a shoulder and he called me. He ended up at my house. And for the first time in many years, I fell for someone deeply, deeply. And it was kind of mutual, and we moved in together and proceeded to have a almost 7-year, very loving, nurturing, yet chaotic, disturbing, dysfunctional relationship because his level of grief over losing his child when I took him in, he was broken and regressed back to his own childhood. All of his own trauma he had never dealt with. Severe alcoholism, almost like leaving Las Vegas 2.0. I mean, it was absolutely over my head. And his, personality disorder, just all kinds of shit was going on. And it really, really drastically affected my life, my plans, my self-care. The whole course of my life changed. Okay. And I have mixed feelings about this person to this day. He passed away last year in September, and I am still grieving the loss of him. But it was a very complicated relationship. What happened to us in the year before he died, how I was treated by him. But there were also good and wonderful things about him that I like to remember. Okay. Now, not everybody's going to feel that way about someone who mistreated them. Not everybody's going to feel that way about a covert narcissist in their life. I've had several different covert narcissists and several different types of narcissists in my life throughout my lifetime. Some of them I remained friends with. Some of them I got my issues cleared with. Some of them I was able to forgive and go on. And I don't hold any fucking grudges. I am not on a witch hunt for pathological narcissists. Always remember, there is a distinction to be made. It's not just narcissist. There are healthy forms of narcissism that many of us carry, that we have to have. Like, remember me mentioning Arnold and Sylvester? A lot of that is just healthy bravado. It is just healthy motivation and taking pain and trauma and shit and using it to our healthy advantage. That's it. So, healthy narcissism and confidence and motivation and boundaries versus pathological, sadistic, twisted narcissism. It's all on a spectrum. Make the distinction and educate on it, okay? So I know that not everybody's going to feel differently about their abusers, about people who mistreated them. I am not by any means on a fucking witch hunt. That's a waste of my time. I am more about the awareness, the education, remembering who that person really was and the entirety of his soul, dark, light, everything that I went through. There are some people that are still angry, though, that are not healed yet from what happened to them, and they don't want to think about their abusers at all. They don't love those people. They've moved on from those people. They have not a drop left for them. They spit on their name. They don't even care, and that's okay. I have a couple people like that in my past, too. But for the most part, I've really worked on a lot of my healing, and I have some very complex, mixed feelings about my love and my partner that I lost, okay? So that was kind of just the real fast track of my life. It's a lot to it. And so let's fast forward up to mental breakdown. I'd always been a very strong person, mentally, emotionally, physically, partly, I guess, because of what I went through as a child. It made me tough. It made me strong. And then partly because of the psychology that I had and the teachings and the counseling. But when I got involved with this last partner at 40, it began to break my spirit. As we get older, we do things change. We can't keep up as much with what we could have in the past. And I still, even though I had been around a lot of different types of narcissistic people in my life, the covert narcissist really takes you off guard. And sometimes you will hear me talk of them in a negative light. You'll hear some of that pain and anger coming out of me, and that's okay. That's valid. But all in all, I am mainly here for education and awareness purposes and learning from it. I don't want to hate that guy. I don't hate that guy. I still love him to this day. He is gone from this earth, and there's nothing I can do about that tormented soul that was him on this earth. Tormented ego, the things he did. I know that he didn't have a chance as a child. I know a lot about that dude's life, but that does not, and I let him know that, does not give you a free pass to abuse, to be sadistic, to be twisted, to not get the help you need. Okay, so that's that. In the year before he passed away, he and I broke up. And I'm probably not going to have time to get into the mental breakdown part of this and what that looks like for different people and what mine looked like. But I will follow up with this in a part 2, guys. And I'll tell you what led up to my mental breakdown last year and exactly what kind of pushed me over the edge, where I could literally feel that my mind was about to break. And that was crazy for me because I've always been very strong mentally, emotionally, and physically. I've always had a very good support system, psychological foundation, spiritual outlet. And it was just crazy for me, okay? And I'm not on any substances, for most of my life, really clean and sober, except for the stint that I told you about when I was 38. For 3 years, I was addicted to opiates, and then I immediately got on Suboxone, and I've been in a treatment program ever since. And so for this to start happening to me, I know exactly what it was, and I didn't want to be gaslighted by anybody and ganged up on and told I was crazy or told it was this or that when I knew exactly what it was that was doing it to me. I knew what it was behind the scenes. And it's tragic. It's tragic for a person, and this could be anybody, just a normal everyday person with all these hopes and dreams and plans and goals, who gets up every day and tries to do the right things and be responsible and love the people around them, and they are being slowly tormented, chipped away at, too much at once, and nobody to advocate for them. Sometimes all we have to advocate is for ourselves, and I couldn't do it. I was not strong enough to stand up to what was against me because I loved this person too much. It was actually a couple people that were close to me, and I'm going to get into it. I'm going to get into what lack of boundaries, lack of my own self-worth, I guess, even though I had a lot of self-worth. I'm going to get into what led up to complete total mental breakdown. And I knew it was coming. I knew I wasn't going to be able to fight for my life like I was used to doing in the past, and that I had to try too hard for too long and get up and try again and again and again with this person. That is what our lifestyle was like. And not having the power to walk away from him for so long because I knew he was dying. I was in this emotional trap. And so I ended up, losing everything. My car, my place to live, my plans, worst nightmare, and having to come and live with my mother in a little tiny efficiency apartment with no privacy, which I'm glad I didn't have to go to the streets, but it has felt like I've been in prison for a year. And my partner continued to run his direction because as a covert narcissist, I'll get into that too, they don't cope with things like we do. He knew he was dying. He knew he was very sick. Because I asked for human rights, that's what a narcissist does, a pathological narcissist, they will run off on you. They will discard you. You are no longer valuable to them if you ask for human rights and you set boundaries, right? And that is what started unfolding. And he became so furious with me that he went back to doing drugs, knowing he was sick, knowing he had throat cancer, skipping his appointments, turned back to hard liquor after being off of all drugs and hard liquor for 5 years. He only drank beer as an alcoholic. He drank enough beer to kill a horse per day, but still. So at this time, a year before his death, he went back to very strong drugs and alcohol. And the particular drug he started doing made him lose his fucking mind. Treat me horrible. He was just running around like a candle about to burn out. And it was the saddest, most tragic thing to ever have to witness or go through. And it broke me. Okay. It just, I just kept on, and I ended up stuck at my mother's. And there's a lot more to the story of my mental breakdown last year. And I will finish it up in part 2 and tell you what's been going on here lately. Okay. And, how some things are making progress and getting better. And I've been doing a lot of healing work. But yes, I will get more into the mental breakdown thing. It was unbelievable to experience what I felt and saw and felt basically all alone. Okay. After all I had gone through and everything, I basically felt like I had been thrown in a hole, never to be seen or heard from again, and that nobody was really going to check on me, except for maybe my sister. It was sad. But there's a lot to this ending, okay? To the mental breakdown and the year before my partner passed away and last year surrounding his death. There's a lot, okay? So, but don't give up hope. I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I'm still fighting the good fight, working on this energy. And so, yeah. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you for watching and supporting my channel. And thanks for getting to know me, part 1. I hope you guys will stick around for more. All right? I'll see you in part 2.